Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Happy Saturday and a wonderful weekend to you. Hope you're having a great overall day and weekend. What we're looking at here, of course, is just a quick update on Solana, see what's going on for the weekend. Generally, I like to do somewhat of a macro perspective and obviously dive into smaller time frames too, but today, Solana's recovering moderately well. However, you got to recognize it sells off pretty hard when Bitcoin does too. So at this point, Bitcoin kind of holding the level of 96,000. Solana is slowly recovering. It's a good sign. Not a lot of alts are kind of performing this way. So we like to see that, but we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves either and just be like, some crazy early longs that just, try to go to the moon for no reason. Okay. Moon should never enter your mind when you're talking about coins right now at this moment. With the way that Bitcoin is pulling back, there's no reason to get even mildly bullish on coins for the moment. So it doesn't mean you attach yourself to a bearish mindset. It just simply implies that we got to be nimble and understand that both directions may occur at either time. If you've ever heard of Schrodinger's cat, maybe perhaps that. Crypto is essentially the same thing. Until you open the box, it's either going up or down, right? And at this point, we don't really ever have the combination to open the key for the box, of course, because the market makers are the true ones that know that. But if we look at liquidation and different things like this, we can get a slight advantage and kind of understand, is that cat going to be dead when we open up the box, or is it going to be, alive and well? Anyways, that probably makes no sense at all if you don't understand the reference, but it works for me. Okay, so back in data, last 7 days of liquidation, we can kind of see on the left-hand side, once more, 205 still present. That's just kind of that normal area. So exactly why 203 has been a pretty significant resistance range for us. And we got to break above 203 at the very least. In other words, close above that level before we have any legs to stand on. I've been talking about that for a little while now. It's just a pretty obvious previous support turned resistance. Okay, simple as that. In fact, 203 has been a pretty consistent number for Solana for a while now. Either way you look at it here, 187 to 186, that rough estimate of 186 is that lower liquidation range too. So we're kind of right in the middle of it, but as per usual, just kind of bouncing and recovering off that lower support level. Okay, so that's that. The macro, roughly the same scenario. We do need to recognize that the liquidation delta has been overextended for too long. Okay, now this is usually a cause for reversal, so I'm not trying to sit here and convince you that Solana is going to pump or take off here. Trust me, that's not the case. But what I am telling you here, though, is that when liquidation delta stays too high for too long or too low for too long, it will have it has a tendency of shifting gears, right? Because again, there's too many people shorting this coin right now. So what's logical? The logical next step for market makers: pump the price action up, destroy a bunch of accounts, move the price wherever you see fit, and then of course sell at that point when everyone else turns to a long position. It's kind of the standard way that things work out, but generally speaking, an early onset, an early identification of that is an overextension of liquidation delta. In my experience, anytime you see three plus days of way too many bears or bulls, then you'll see that reversal. It's exactly why you see things happen in threes too. Have you noticed that? Like for example, 3 white soldiers, 3 black crows. There's like a candlestick pattern to kind of identify reversals or overextensions. If you take TD sequential and you multiply that out by 2 overextensions, that gives you 72 hours. There's a lot of reasons why I've noticed that 3 days into anything, you will typically see natural capitulation. So I'm speculating we may see a bit of a push here for Solana to at the very least maybe retest that resistance range 200, 203. Okay. All that being said, we can see a lot more open interest down below at 186 to 190. So obviously that's previous data, but that level of 186 to 190 holding moderately well. Keep in mind, Bitcoin dumps to 94,000 tonight, tomorrow, soon. Solana's probably going to knee-jerk reaction down too. Okay, you got to recognize that it's not impervious at this moment. There's not like a significant disparity between these two coins. Maybe in the last 12 hours, but in general, every sell-off for the last week or two's worth of trading, Solana has pulled back significantly hard. So just know that, okay? So adjust your stop loss as you get into profit. It's a simple way to understand it. Do not get super greedy here. We can see 207 is that next area of resistance based on volume, or in this case, open interest, effectively the same thing. So 207, be mindful, is that next area of resistance. So 207's right here. And then of course we got our local point of control at 198. So we also got to be mindful that we're probably going to see a rejection maybe initially off this level. So best case scenario, the price does one of these and continues higher. But more logically, it would make sense for the price to come up here, Bitcoin were to dump, and Solana dumps with it. Okay, just some theoretical stuff for you there. All right, so let's take a quick look at the monthly and work our way down. haven't talked about this for a little while, and there's nothing stark or crazy amazing here, right? It's going to look mostly bullish while RSIs and MFIs are coming back down. We're over 50. Generally speaking, not a bad sign. Natural capitulation. I don't see anything here that's super amazing in either direction, by the way. Same thing with the weekly too. We are under the 20-day SMA, which we haven't been for some time. But as you can tell, when we go range bound, for the most part within larger ranges, that previous 120 to 180 range, if you remember that, that is essentially what we're seeing now too. We got a range currently with a low of about 175, upwards of potential about 250. Okay, so again, range bound activity being under the 20, it's not necessarily a bearish sign. It just lets us know that we need to be mindful that we're no longer just going to go up, nonsensically, right? So there's a lot of little factors involved, but the general consensus here is that we're getting close to that little support and resistance range, 175 to 200. Maintaining this range is okay, but breaking below that 180, I would say 185 or 175, that range there, it could be disadvantageous. We look here on the weekly too, we're treading water just above 50 in the RSI. Breaking below that could very much imply that we see further downside. We haven't been below that RSI in some time. Last time we were below that was back in April of last year. 2 years ago rather, okay? So we've been on a pretty consistent monumental type of wave here. So as long as we maintain that, we're okay, but we do still have divergences here as well. So it's pretty choppy. I don't really trust this type of that time frame to give us perspective on what's going to happen more intraday, which is what we're looking at here. So anyways, the general consensus is that we're mostly bullish on the macro, but we're starting to see some divergences form on the weekly, kind of letting us know that we may start shifting down a little further. We're traveling into this previous high territory, and while it's a nice support, it may eventually become the resistance. All that said, though, taking a look at the daily, we're under 50 on the RSI. Money flow index is low. When MFI is this low, we generally see a pivot, though. Okay, so if we look previous, like just say the last time we saw MFI this low, it was right here at this point. Okay, now this is a while ago. This is back in September when we were in the 130s. But hypothetically, you see the price action continue much further up after that. Same thing here as well. We saw money flow index right here closer to 20. While it did kind of ripsaw a lot, it eventually took off. Granted, this was a fundamental catalyst here, but the general consensus is that MFI being this low generally responds with that natural increase in volume because people are buying these dips and they feel like it's a good value again. Okay, that's the general concept. So either way you look at it here, the daily time frame still looks very terrible. There's no other way around it. All the moving averages, RSIs, everything is above us, essentially reiterating and reaffirming resistance. But that one little outlier there, that hidden bullish convergence that a lot of people will try to attach themselves to, could be kind of like that initial indication that we're shifting momentum. Okay, so again, just some food for thought there. If I was a macro trader, I would maybe consider adding to my position, which I technically have been. I've been adding to my spot bag in the 170 to 180 range previously, and again here I have some limit orders. But again, that's more of a spot perspective from a longer term hold. It's not a high leverage trade right now to the moon. Okay, that should never enter your mind. 4 hour time frame. Taking a look here, we can recognize that we are testing the 20-day SMA and this initial descending trend. So we are tentatively breaking free from this descending trend line. And keep in mind, we have to close above this 198 in order to have any legs to stand on. Main reason why is because that's proven to be a local resistance. It's a point of control, basically telling us that the amount of volume in the last however many days of trading, I think that's maybe 5 days of trading, we can see here that this is the area of resistance. So strong likelihood we reject off that level, but if we break through, could be the new support to allow us to go higher. Again, a lot of this pending on Bitcoin's success or lack of failure, rather. Okay, Bitcoin continues to pull back, Solana's going to keep just retracing. If Bitcoin keeps going sideways, which it's doing right now, for the most part in a low range, which is unique to see this low of a range, and Solana recover, there's a decent chance we could see this price break out. But again, until we get over that 50-day SMA, I'm not really all that convinced we're back on track. So by the time we get there, the SMA will be below us. So hypothetically, we get to 203 or higher, we're in good shape, good to go. So again, to me, I'm looking for a closure over 203 to have any confidence in taking it long. And that would require Bitcoin to be above its descending trends too, just again, my personal opinion, to take a trade with confidence, okay? I try to limit the amount of high risk trades that I take. I take them occasionally, like our XRP trade, for example, right now. It's not doing great, but it's also averaged in almost a break even. But again, I wouldn't normally take that kind of trade, but the market's only giving us high risk options in a lot of ways. So you kind of got to be diverse and a little bit more nimble in this market. But the key takeaway is those higher risk trades that you or I am taking, for example. When you take them, you got to ensure that you use good, proper risk tolerance. You can take a high risk trade and have a good risk and still effectively come out on top. You just got to make sure that you're not over leveraging and or using too large of a position size. People do it all the time, and it's nonsense. So try not to use high leverage. Just keep it low. I use 5x leverage for pretty much every trade, minus Bitcoin, but I adjust my profit percentages accordingly. I'm not trying to go twice as hard on Bitcoin. I just feel like it's an easier coin to trade. Anyway, as far as ranges and all that stuff concerned, regardless of that fact, that's what we got here so far. I do think that Solana has a decent chance at reclaiming that 203 mark. We just got to get above 198 as a starting point, and then obviously continue to increase volume. Just so you know, with this pump here, it's not to be trusted. Look at this volume. It's pretty low volume, folks. This feels kind of off to me. Okay, so again, while the numbers are there for the smaller time frames, we look here, of course, I've kind of overlooked it, sorry, on the hourly. We are not quite there yet. We're getting close. For the most part, the overall sentiment is still not great. Okay, so that's kind of the simple way to understand it. So yeah, that's all we got here. Not much else. No need to sugarcoat anything here. Again, this coin's looking decent, but that's a consolation at best. All right, so I'll post a playout chart with an updated, information here. Essentially, that's all available here for you. Link down below if you're curious. I am posting our open interest as well now on my Twitter account, just so you can kind of see where things are at. Bitcoin has a tremendous amount of resistance above it, and I think it's a decent chance that we see further downside soon for Bitcoin. So just know that exists, and if that happens, Solana, what do you think Solana is going to do? This is what it does every time Bitcoin pulls back. Big ol' rip down. So just know that. Anyways, we'll see what happens. Hope you have a good rest of your day and a wonderful weekend. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.